The stock market, the Dow dropped 700 points on Friday.
Yep.
Picked up today, but it's still a lot of uncertainty in the market, right? Like it's been choppy ever since
DeepSeek.
Yeah, ever since Trump got in office, it's been choppy. So, okay. And that Friday was the worst day of the year as far as stock market wipe off. So, are we in a cycle of buying opportunity? Are we in a cycle of uncertainty? There's a lot of people that's kind of nervous, people that might have just started investing in the stock market. What are we saying to these people?
Number one, I understand your concern and uncertainty, but not less than number one. Whenever there's volatility to the upside of the market is always going to do the reverse. So the first 30 days he was in office, everything to the moon. The only person who may not be facing this volatility right now is probably Elon. Every other market, as a result, is slowly coming back and reverting to the mean. So this was bound to happen. We will start to recover probably either between this evening and Thursday. Point number two, expiration happened in the futures market. So there was a lot of selling of contracts. And then we'll talk about Buffett selling off VOO as he's doing his succession planning. But there's a combination of factors of now there's a lot of people that are starting to get worried about the impacts that the aggressive cutting through Doge is going to have. Interest rates are a concern again. And once again, we're at the top of the market. We're almost at a high. If it wasn't for this drop, we were close to getting back to all-time highs. So this was kind of overdue. But the main concern is the plan based on executive leadership in Washington as Doge being too aggressive. And then if we're going to be very honest, Mag 7 is not performing. Out of that Mag 7, the only one that's producing amazing news, we'll talk about Apple and that flop of a phone announcement. Microsoft's quantum chip is the only thing in the Mag 7 that has been positive news for like the past 2 or 3 weeks. So we were overdue for this pullback.
Well, in terms of positive movement, the only one that's been moving is Meta. And obviously they went on a historic run for 21 days straight where they saw appreciation in the stock price, which is unprecedented. So for them to pull back makes sense. But if you really circle the data, it's really, the DeepSeek information that came out, and we haven't recovered from that, which is okay. I'm okay with that for a number of reasons. It gives you better entry points. It's the same story, right? When things start to sell off, people are taking profit. I think we need to understand that part, right? So even when we'll talk about Palantir, when we start hitting all-time highs, people are going to take profit. And so when people sell shares, you're going to see movement to the downside on some of these stocks. But I'm always looking at it as an opportunity to buy. Anytime I see numbers pulling back to, where I had them as entry points, I'm looking at it as an opportunity. But it is a big week. And it's funny that you said we should see some movement between Tuesday and Thursday, because Wednesday is probably the biggest day of the first quarter, and that's NVIDIA reporting its earnings. When we talk about AI spending, if you look, and we went over this 2 weeks ago when we talked about Amazon saying that they're going to spend $100 billion into the AI revolution. We talked about Google saying they're going to spend $85 billion, and Microsoft's going to spend $85 billion. Well, there's this company by the name of Apple that just said that they're going to allocate $500 billion over the next 4 years, which is about $125 billion, right? And then, so if there is a pullback, somebody hasn't told these people. But what was interesting when we talk about the United States from a standpoint of the data center revolution, but this company named Alibaba said something on Friday and reallocated it today about their spending to the AI revolution. So they're allocating over $70 billion. This is a Chinese, right? So when we talk about DeepSeek and doing things at an efficient level, well, how is that possible? Because Alibaba just said that they're going to buy 230,000 GPUs to facilitate this revolution. 230,000 this year. So
it's an international war for sure. Like this race in this GPU market, China versus US is heating up.
Yes.
And at some point, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say this is the war, right? So like if it was gonna be more efficient and it was gonna be less spend, Alibaba has learned something different, right? And so what we have seen is that the more compute power that you generally have is gonna translate to a better model. Right, that's what it has shown, right? Whether it's from Elon, what he's doing with Gronk, or whether it's Claude with Anthropic, or it's ChatGPT with OpenAI, the more money that they're spending into the general compute, they're having better results. And when they don't, the competition is. And if the competition does, now you know you have to up your spend again. So,
and at some point, Microsoft, Google, Grok, OpenAI, despite all the issues that Sam and Elon have had, they're going to have to at some point figure out how to figure their own tech all-star game and work with each other before China does get an edge. I do think the DeepSeek was a Trojan horse of misinformation. But to the bigger picture, though, Alibaba, there are a couple companies that are working on having enough compute to actually be a real threat that will topple our market. So is it a buying opportunity? Yes, but this is a race to see who closes the gap on who has the most market share in GPU, and who wins the AI war. This is for the next 5 to 7 years.
When we talk about catalyst events, it's just not a domestic thing. You have to watch international news. And so when the president of China calls all of the largest cap companies to have a meeting, and then 5 days later, this is an announcement after that meeting, that tells you something. And so Alibaba, yes, I would watch what Baidu does, right? Because when we're talking about Alibaba, we say, oh, that's the Chinese version of Amazon. Well, Baidu is the Chinese version of Google. So you got to start watching what these companies start doing inside of AI. Yep.
And BYD versus Tesla.
Another one.
Is heated up as well. Like, this is the real tech civil war, and we cannot afford to lose this. Because if we lose this race, we lose the bioengineering of organs race. We're going to lose some of the blockchain race. Like, we can't afford to lose.
No, we can't. War. I don't think we're not going to, and we can't. Both.
Yeah, for sure. All right. But going back to this market thing before we go to the next topic, is one of these things that I didn't think that Trump was going to be the best person for the economy. And I said that the day before the election and pretty much got crucified. It's not, I have no allegiance to a political party, but there's one thing that kind of made me leery about Trump is that he's uncertain. So there's a reason why most before that, you wouldn't know that now, but most of the Fortune 500 companies and hedge funds and all that, they really wanted Kamala to win. Once they saw that she had no chance of winning, then they switched pivot. But the reason why is that these guys like to know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And when we was in San Francisco, I met a top executive at one of the Fortune 500 companies, and he told me that, life has been difficult for him because uncertainty. He's like, he's never seen so much uncertainty as far as like one day there's tariffs, one day there's not tariffs, one day there's regulation, and he was like, if you know the rules of the game, you can play it. But if the rules of the game changes every single day, that becomes difficult. Markets don't like radical behavior.
Yeah.
They like the regular, standard, vanilla. We know what we're gonna get. We know what your foreign policy is. Mm-hmm. We know that you're gonna be hard on this industry. You're gonna be okay, cool. We could navigate that. Trump is the exact opposite of that. You don't know what he's gonna do. He's extremely unpredictable, and often he changes course a lot. So yeah, I mean, over the long haul, the market will be fine. But we do have to have some level of honest conversation that he is a catalyst for some of this because his behavior is extremely erratic.
Right.
And that's causing uncertainty in global markets, American markets, companies, governments, and that's choppy. It's choppy waters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. Like I said, like one day it's a tariff on this country, and then I'm gonna give you 30 days to figure that out. But these things affect multiple places, right? So if you're talking about China having taxes on time, well, they're gonna retaliate. If enough countries start retaliating, that affects business everywhere. And I'm glad you brought that conversation up. Is like when I don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow, it's tough to prepare for it, and so you try to prepare for it, and then it changes, right? Like one day it's like, hey, if you don't show me your work by the end of the week, don't come to work on Monday. Huh? Like then you get an email saying, hey,
that's right, like too aggressive of a cut. Yes.
I get it. And
if we go back to COVID, them cutting certain departments led to the mismanagement of the COVID virus.
Yeah. Some may say the same thing about the FAA.
For sure.
Some may say.